Welcome to part one of my two-part self-referencing list access tutorial. The first part we're going to deal with setup, and the second part we will deal with implementation. So here we're going to build a table, set up relationships, and create a subform. Then in the next tutorial we will create the main form that houses the subform, and then connect all the pieces and add some Visual Basic code to get various functionality. Now, what I mean by self-referencing list is typically you'll have a lot of different lookups, things where you just have an auto number ID and then a text value. I consider those to be lists, and many times I have created a database that has 6, 7 more tables that all it does is create lists. Well, there's a way that we can combine those all together and put them in one table instead of separate tables and manage them from a single location. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. With Access open, go ahead and go to a blank desktop database, and we will call this self-referencing lists. And the default table that Access opens for you, go ahead and switch that to design view. When you do that, we will name it table list items. And the first item here is going to be our list item ID. The second field will be the list item itself. Then we will have the parent list item ID. This is where the self-referencing part comes in. That will be a number. And then the last field that we'll have will be active, and that is a yes, no. Now we'll set some of the properties for these. List item ID, we're just going to change the caption here to make that a little more screen friendly. For list item, we will change the field size down to 50 and do the same with the caption. Do the same thing with the caption that we did with list item ID. For the parent list, we want to verify this is long integer, and it should be. The caption we will change to just say parent list, and we will remove the default value. In the active field, we will add another caption there. And the reason why I'm changing all of these captions is because whatever you put in this caption, it follows through to any forms or reports or queries that you make as labels or headers for these fields. So it's a good idea to set them, even if it is the same as the actual field name. You want to have them there for all of them. The default value we're going to change to yes, because anytime we create a new list item, we would like it to automatically be active. And that pretty much sets up our table. We will have some lookup properties to do on the parent list item, but first I want to save the table and go into datasheet view and add our very first item, which will be list, and then the parent list will be 1 for this. So it is referencing itself, and this sets it as a list item of list type. Go ahead and go back into design view and select the parent list item ID. We're going to modify the lookup properties. We'll change this text box to a combo box, and the row source will be this very table. The column count will set to 2. That brings in the list item ID and the list items. And we will set the widths to 0 and 1, which hides this ID and just shows the text value. We can go ahead and save this, and if we jump back into datasheet view, we can now see that list is a part of the list called list. Go ahead and close the table. The next part that we're going to do is set up the relationship so that we don't end up with orphan records. We do that by going to Database Tools and then opening Relationships, and you're going to drag the list items table into the Relationship Designer twice. When you bring the second one in, it gets an alias with an underscore and 1 because you can't have two tables of the same name. But since this table references itself, the relationship has to be created on itself, that constraint. So we'll grab the parent list item ID and we will drag that onto the list item ID and then enforce referential integrity, cascade update, and delete, and create this relationship. You can see it right there. We'll go ahead and save and close these relationships. The last part of this tutorial will be to set up the datasheet form, which we will use to display all of the items in any particular list. This is relatively easy because Access has a wizard set up for making datasheet forms for us. So we'll go to Create, and then Form Wizard. Right now we only have this one table, so we don't really have to change anything there. And we want all of these fields to come through because they'll all be useful to us, even if we don't display them. So click the double arrow to bring them all over, and then click Next. We want to create a datasheet form, so click Next again. Then we are going to name this SFRM list, and that's for subform list, and then click Finish. Well, what happened is it will show us our form here, and we've got, here's our ID for a list item, there's the text, here's the parent or the list that it belongs to, and here's whether or not it's active. We want to hide the parent list, and we want to hide the ID, because we don't need to see those when we're looking at a list of items. We just want to see the list item itself and whether or not that is an active item. At this point, we can go ahead and save this and close the table. In part 2 of this 2-video tutorial, I will be back and we will create the list management form and add some Visual Basic code. Step-by-step instructions of what we did here will be included in the description, and an email address where you can send me any questions, or you can just comment below the video. Thanks.